Now, people talk about, the soul trap and how people can detach from the system. Well, what I came up with is I told everybody, obviously, you need to disconnect yourself from all the outside drama and everything. Once you've disconnected yourself and gotten out of the game, the media game, all the drama game, what's going on around your life, as much as you can get out of that. And also understand that your subconsciousness is not your friend. I call it the overseer or the enemy within. Then, once you've gone through that point, then you have to understand that in order for you to be in control of your life, you have to be.
I'm pleased to have Mike Martin with me today. Mike has had a series of over 1,000 spiritual experiences in which he has discovered something very unique he'd like to share with us. Mike, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
So tell me how this all got started for you. It was way back in the 90s, and you've just been having these incredible experiences ever since.
So, as a little kid, I started having out of body experiences when I was back in the 70s. Didn't know what they were, nobody to ask. I just kind of forgot about them. And when I became an adult, young adult in the late 80s, I read about out of body experiences or astral projection. I went and got the book by Robert Monroe called Journeys Out of the Body. Completely amazed by it. It was like nothing I'd ever heard of. Didn't realize that's what I had been having, but hadn't had them in years. So I practiced, and it took me about 11 months before I was successful of having my first controlled out of body experience. When I had that, then I kind of correlated what was happening to me as a kid, put them together, and I knew that's what it was. And at that point, I'm like, okay, now that I've been able to be successful in having an out of body experience, should be pretty easy. Well, didn't really work out that way. A couple more months of trying. And by trying, I mean, what I utilized is questioning my reality as a gateway for lucid dreaming to get into the astral. So what I would do is ask myself many times during the day if I was awake, and I'd look at a solid object and look away and look at it again. If it had not changed, then I knew that I was not dreaming, because in the dream state, things change on a continual basis. So I kept asking myself over and over. And then when I became conscious within a dream, which means I was lucid, I was awake during a dream, I tell myself I wanted to have an out of body experience. At that point, I was whisked out of the body, and I was on the side of my house and having an out of body experience. Now, you're out of body because you're in two places simultaneously. You're in your bed sleeping, and you're in that wherever you're at that point. You can feel yourself as if you're really there. You're consciously there. You're aware of what's going on. You have a peripheral vision that's almost 360 degrees, and it's an amazing experience. Lasted a few minutes. Then I'm back in bed. I kept trying over months of time. Finally, I was able to regain my lucidity in a dream, which means I was conscious within a dream. I realized something was going on. Before I was able to tell myself I wanted to have an out of body experience, I'm whisked out of the dream. I'm back in bed, laying on my side with my eyes still closed. Now I'm fully awake, but I haven't opened my eyes. And at this point, I see this oval portal in the blackness of what you see with your eyes closed. And it was a live viewing of a city by water. And that was probably, I don't know, maybe 50, 100 feet off the ground, looking down at a 45-degree angle, like somebody had a camera with a round screen. And I'm looking at the screen. And around the screen was a border. And around in that border was apparently a description of what that was. But it's written in some language that I didn't understand. It looked like a mixture of hieroglyphics. It looked like a mixture of maybe Celtic writing and maybe some three-dimensional writing. So it was just a mixture of, that's all that I could compare it to. So I'm looking at that, I'm looking at this image, and I'm like, I'm not in the astral because I can move my fingers and toes. I can open my eyes if I want to. I can, move my body around. This is happening, so I'm in the awakened state. I watched it. It lasted about 30 or 40 seconds, and it pixelated and disappeared. I opened my eyes, and I'm like, okay, well, I don't know what that is. I'm going to go with it. Just call it a viewing, write it down, and we'll see what happens. So I kept trying to have an astral projection. Every time I became lucid in a dream, I'm back at the portal. I'm in this time, after about the third time, the portals were no longer an oval image. They became my full viewing, my peripheral viewing with the third eye. And every time I would be awake, I'm not in the astral, I'm in the physical, and I'm laying in bed and I'm watching these. It'll show me different landscapes, it'll show me sometimes people, and it allowed me to enter them a few times. And I was able to, like hover above a landscape that looked like it might be in Germany by the Black Forest. And there was a pathway that I was kind of floating over. And I got about halfway down, I saw some footprints. I kept floating, and eventually, after about 30, 40 seconds, it started to pixelate, which means it was time for me to exit. Still in bed the whole time. I open my eyes. Okay, I write everything down. So that started the process of me having these portal experiences, which was 33, 34 years ago that I've had them ever since. I have them all the time. And sometimes and it took me years to figure out what this meant, but I was seeing through the eyes of other people. Sometimes I think it was people that maybe had dementia and they're sitting in the front room, and I'm wondering why there's no movement. I'm wondering why there's no difference in perspective or perception, and it just was weird. So I started putting all these things together. Okay, so I'm experiencing them, I'm documenting everything. Then I decide that there's got to be another way to initiate these rather than having to go through the process of lucid dreaming. Because at a certain point, it started becoming automatic for me. So I discovered there's something in the daydream state. Now, I correlate the dream state and the daydream state within the same grouping because they're a very similar brain activity wave that we all have when we're either daydreaming or we're dreaming. It's very close. So I realized that by accessing what's happening within the daydream state, because I was driving a long period of time from work and back, I was like an hour and a half every day to work and from work. I'm just sitting there. So I figured I'm daydreaming. I might as well utilize it. I noticed there was something there. So I started investigating it. I realized that subconsciously I was going somewhere within that daydream state, but I wasn't able to access the information and bring it back to me. So I spent about a year trying to figure out how to get to that point. And finally, I decided that I was going to utilize the same state of mind when I'm in the portals than what I'm going to utilize the daydream state. So I was able to duplicate that after months of trying, practicing. I got to that state. I realized there was things going on, but I still had a problem bringing it back through what I call the veil, which separates the physical between the spiritual or astral, or beyond that. It's a highly insulated, corrosive veil that what it is if you experience information on the other side and you go to bring it back, it's like bringing a hard drive through a magnetic field. It erases all the data. So I knew there was an experience, but I couldn't access that information. Subconsciously, we're going there, but consciously, I was able to go there and not bring it back. So after time and time again, I was finally able to bring the information back, and I realized, hey, it's not just me. We're all accessing other realities, other dimensions, other alternate realities, or other selves. We're all accessing that when we're in our daydream state, and I'm sure it's happening in our dream state.
Do you feel like everyone is having these experiences and they are
Oh
just
yeah,
getting, they can't bring them back?
right. Because what's happening is over time and time again, subconsciously, and it's the same thing in a dream. I tell people, I go, doesn't it kind of seem funny that our subconscious only brings back certain dream data to us that doesn't really make sense? Why would we need an interpreter to translate our own dreams? That just doesn't make any sense. This is the same thing that's happening in the daydream state. Your subconscious is going there, and subconsciously, you're communicating with these other beings or maybe other selves, and you're making these connections. It's happening, but you're not. We're not getting anything out of it, and we're not understanding it's going on. So once I was able to project my consciousness, my waking consciousness, to that point, over to that, along with my subconscious, I traveled over there, which is also a portal connection, which we all do, and I brought the information back. I realized that most of the information was pretty much daily type of chatter that you would have with other individuals or other beings. But I was able to go there, I was able to experience it, and I was able to bring that information back. And once I started replicating that, then I was able to learn more and more about what's happening away from us. So I had the portals at night, and then I had the portal connections during the day. They're two different experiences, but yet they're the same connections. So what happened was, going through those portal experiences all those nights, I was able to recreate the brain activity and the thought process of recreating them in order for me to access them at different times, the dream state or the daydream state. So I opened myself up for a whole another level of understanding and exploration. So what I started to do is going to, now I didn't pick my destination. What I would do is I get myself in that state of mind. Then there's a separation there where your subconsciousness makes the connection. Well, I trained my consciousness um, to get past the illusion of the dream state starting to come through. Once I was able to pierce through that illusion, I was able to accompany my subconsciousness to that level. And it's basically like going through a portal. It's like you being on one side of the mirror and me being on the other side. We can see through it and we can step right through it, or we can, or through a window. It's like a clear window, but you can get through it. A portal is an opening in space time where distance doesn't matter. What happens is, when we are making conscious connections with things, they're no longer on the physical level. Physical speed of light, physical anything, it doesn't matter. We're spiritual beings, and we're basically trapped in human form, in physical bodies. We have three bodies. We have the physical body on the physical plane, we have the spirit body on the astral plane, and we have the soul on the mental plane. Now, they're all connected with a cord, so that if I project my consciousness, which is an astral projection, into my spirit body, then I'm having an astral projection. If you're not consciously there, then it's a normal dream state with your subconscious goes into the astral body. But if I consciously move myself into the astral body, then I have a conscious astral projection. That's the difference. Moving consciousness.
It's not really like a separation of your body. There's a body in the astral plane, and your consciousness just identifies with that instead of your physical body.
Right. Now, if you look at it, so if you were to see all three planes simultaneously, my physical body, my spirit body, and my soul would all line up. Those are already on their own specific planes, but they're lined up as one if you looked at them from three different views. Now, if you have an astral projection, I project my consciousness into that spirit body, and that spirit body will detach from the physical body. It's still corded. It still has a cord between it. And then you can move around on that point, but it still has to come back to this location. When it comes back, then then our consciousness will switch back into the physical body. Because when whatever body is going to be animated is the one that contains our consciousness. Because in reality, our consciousness is the only real self that we have. Our subconscious is not us. Our physical body is not us. Our spirit body is not us. And our soul is not us. Those are bodies. They're all connected. And the subconsciousness is connected to the bodies. Now, the only reason we're intertwined, our consciousness is intertwined with that, is because it is trapped within that three body system with the subconscious system. The subconsciousness is a universal consciousness. It's more like a hive type mind. The reason, and what it does, is it filters everything from us. It keeps things from us. It keeps things from us from the astral, and it keeps things from us from these other dimensions. We have normal connections, but it's filtering it from so that we can't see it. Now, I'm able to move my consciousness away along with it, or in other areas that doesn't allow the filter to happen, because I've been doing it so many times. Once you pierce the veil, you're less able to be you're less able to be detracted by the resistance in the veil. So we have a complicated system that we're set up in. And the reason being is we are being held within our body system. Now, this is not our normal state of mind. We are like suns. We are our own energy source. We have everything that we need normally. We're not normally um, held down by emotions and feelings and drama and that sort of thing, because those are physical attributes that are connected to us forcefully by our body system. If we really choose to be free, then the only way to be free is to be our own consciousness. Our consciousness will be on its own. And when I go to these places, I go there. I don't experience anything that's overjoyful. I don't experience anything that is considered evil or anything of that nature. It's all on a normal playing field. What I discovered, though, is if you experience it time after time, you realize that the beings where you go, even on the astral, they have the ability to create whatever image you want to see. So they create an image. What you see of them is what you'd expect to see from them. And what you see from their surroundings or their landscape is what they're portraying. They project what they want to see. They're non-physical, so they're going to show you whatever you want to see or whatever you expect to see or whatever they think that you'll feel comfortable seeing. So you're not actually seeing what's out there, except at times when I've been able to see two-dimensional worlds. Now, those are uncapped, unfiltered. They're worlds where things are completely flat, two-dimensional, yet they move within each themselves. It's almost like watching a moving picture. And they're not physical beings, but they're some type of a spiritual mix of beings, but they have some type of form. It's just not physical. And they have understanding. They have a regular life. And when they saw me, I think they're just as curious as I am to see them, because we're so different. We're so vastly different that we just kind of look at each other and try to figure out how to explain what we're seeing. And, after a while, they start to kind of go along their own path. But at no point do we ever feel threatened or anything of that nature, because we're two completely separate beings that can be no farther from each other, but yet we're occupying the same space peacefully and understanding that we're different, but that's the way things are.
When a two-dimensional being sees you, can they actually see you since you're three-dimensional? And what would
Well,
that
yeah,
look
see,
like? What
when
would
I
that look
say,
like for us to see like a 5 or 10 dimensional being?
right, so when I say see, that's not what I mean, because it doesn't have eyes. So, okay, when you have a connection with something, like you're looking through a portal or you have a portal connection with something, everything is automatically telepathically. And there's an energy flow between you and the other side. So there's not like you can really hide much, because there's an understanding. You understand something about them, they understand something about you. And also, what I see in a portal viewing, they see the same on the other side. So if I'm seeing a 30-foot wide view that's 15-foot tall, they're seeing the same thing on my end. So it's not like I'm just viewing this. They're viewing me just as well as I'm viewing them. So when I started going there, and this is the regular, not the two-dimensional worlds, but I'm sure there's all types of worlds that we can't even understand. Now, we seem to think about things that are physical beings. No, most beings aren't physical. They have no physicality whatsoever. Some of them might have a little bit or utilize that for your understanding, but most of them, they're just not physical. They will show you they are physical, but that's not what they really are, because that's what you're going to accept. And another thing I wanted to say is the ability to manipulate on their end is highly, is just that's almost a given. So when you go somewhere, especially on the astral, if you go there, You're going to see what you expect to see, what you wanted to see. And I'll tell you why. Every being everywhere has their own agenda. Just like every person on this earth, they have their own agenda, they have their own plan, and they have, they want to do the things they want to do. So what happens is when you go there, there's the thing called Akashic, people call it Akashic Records. It's an etherical database. Everything that we think, that we see, everything that happens anywhere, pretty much on Earth or wherever, is recorded in a database. Now, it's not like a server, a Cisco server or anything. And all that information is available to these beings. So with these beings, you show up on the astral for your first time, whether it's an NDE or astral projection, whatever. They see you, they go, we already know what's going on. We have all their information. They read you like a book. They know things about you that you don't even remember, and things that you won't know. So what happens is you expect to see Jesus and grandma and, baby Sam, whatever. You're going to see it, because what they are doing is they're accessing your thoughts, your dreams, your hopes, and your emotions. And they are utilizing those to their advantage, because they want you to have the experience in order for you to become easily manipulated by what they want you to do. Because this whole system that we're in is a system of manipulation. Whether they're manipulating their image, they're manipulating us, or they're manipulating the astral. If we are in a prison on Earth, then the astral would be considered the prison yard. And what would the beings in the astral can either be angels, they can be demons, they can be grandma, they can be whatever you choose, because they read you like a book. So when you show up, they know what you want to hear, they know why you want to hear it, and they will play on your emotions. Now, when your consciousness is somewhere, you're not being manipulated by your feelings. You're not being manipulated by your emotions, because you're in a state of understanding and knowing what's going on. And those are physical and spiritual attributes that you have that connect to you. So people tug at other people's heartstrings, utilizing their emotions and their feelings and their need to protect and that sort of thing, because those are things that you can utilize against people. And that's been utilized against us for a long time. I came to these conclusions not lightly, because when I go out to these places, they don't tell me any of this. They don't give me any information usually that's worth anything. And that's another thing. If we had this spiritual surrounding that was so loving and honest, then why would we have 460,000 children every year just in the United States missing? Why wouldn't all these spirit guides be helping these psychics and all the people that pass through the NDEs that come back to Earth? Why wouldn't they be finding them? Why are there so much suffering and war? There's a reason behind everything. And a lot of times, and I'm guilty of this just as well as everybody else, you know what? Yeah, there's some level of suffering that we have to endure and this and that. No, that's not how a loving spirituality, heaven of angels or whatever. When I began to look deeper, and that's where experience comes in, experience and overall understanding is that below the surface level is something that happens that's occurring based on that database that everybody can access. What's happening is there's a level of manipulation to keep us here on Earth. We're not going to learn anything more. You can go to the astral, or you can go to these places. They're going to say, "Oh yeah, well, I'll tell you all about physics." Okay, well, that absolutely means nothing when you're out of the physical. When I am connecting with portals, none of your physics even matters, because space-time is non-existent. It doesn't exist. When I go to these places, it might be 15 minutes there, and it might be a minute or 15 seconds here. So there's no correlation. What we are looking at here on Earth is distractions. whether it's UFOs or whether it's the pyramids or whether it's physics. These are distractions because we're spiritual beings. We don't rely on technology and we don't rely on that sort of thing in order for us to thrive in our natural state. We are far beyond this. We have been dumbed down and memory wiped in order to get us to this point. We are highly insulated from our source. And we are being told that, oh, you don't need this, you don't need that. That's why I focus on people's spirituality, because the spirituality to me means freedom. I don't do this to make money. It's never been my intention. The only thing is, I do this to inform people so that you can become the individual and be free, just like we all should be. And I tell people how to do it. I show people the whole process and the steps to go through it. But in order for us to be able to really understand what's going on, we have to delve deep into ourselves and understand it. It's all below the surface. I mean, it's going to be shiny and all the frosting looks great and all the decorations look beautiful. But you have to understand that you have to go below the surface to see what's really happening. I mean, I don't like to have to go through this because I'm like, I have way better things to do with my life. But I've been doing this for so long, I had to make a point to say, okay, it's time. It's time that I need to help people that really want to step out. I knew as a kid there was problems, but I had no idea what they were until I got intertwined with all this. I'm like, now what I got to do with it?
Who are they?
The they that I probably referred to was when I first started with these portals, I was, for some reason, now I know I was distracted from the astral. I was moved to the portals. I had no ability to originally begin these portals. The portals require a certain amount of energy for them to actually produce them, initiate them, and keep them open. I didn't have that. I didn't have the knowledge or anything. They just started happening. And I'm like, I don't think this can be me because they're just way too clear. If I initiate a portal connection now, I haven't had one in a week, it'll be very clear. It'll last maybe 30, 40 seconds. If I've had one within a couple of days, it'll be pixelated, it'll be real blurry, and it won't last very long. So this process started a long time ago. And over the time, over repetition, nobody ever told me anything. The only information I ever got was in a different language. Several times I got notes within the portals in different languages. I don't have a photographic memory, so they didn't mean anything to me. So whoever's communicating with me was just showing me through repetition. And it's been over and over, and there's never a clear message or anything. I think from my viewpoint, the best way to teach somebody is not to get them under your wing so you can manipulate them. It's to show them. And then eventually, once they've had enough experience in it, they can duplicate it for themselves. And then at that point, they learn from themselves. So in no way, shape, or form have I been manipulated because, I don't know who it is, and they've never given me any messages. So I just had to learn on my own, just trial and error. And I've gotten frustration beyond levels that people probably wouldn't understand because I don't have anybody to ask. I've looked all over and there's nobody that has any experience in it. And everything that I've learned has been just through trial and error, and it's been time consuming. And I don't take it lightly because I know it's important. But the problem is now is we have so many people that are out there sending out messages that are either manipulating or just wrong, that people get the wrong message. Because if you're trying to manipulate somebody, the best thing you want to do is you want to play at their emotions. You want to tug at their heartstrings. You want to tell them what they want to hear because that will sell. Now, if you start telling people things that they don't want to hear, well, they don't want anything to do with it because they know that it's all peaches and cream over here. Why would I want to listen to this guy? He doesn't know what he's talking about because everybody else says, oh, it's peaches and cream. Well, this guy is the one that had to dig in the dirt. This is the one that had to get in the mud. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm the guy that I don't like to be the bearer of bad news, but that's the conclusion I've come to. And I didn't read it in a book. I had to come to these conclusions myself. And it wasn't an easy aspect because I don't want to live in a place that, you know, that of what I find, I'm like, wow, what am I supposed to do with that?
So, this person that is showing you visions or giving you access to these portals, whatever it is, this being, energy, they're on your side?
They're not on any side. I don't know to tell you the truth is, I've experienced so much. Everything is obviously energy based. And I think if you said it would be closer to someone than maybe something, I'm guessing. But what I learned is, and through this process is, we are like, if you could understand 1% of what you had the capability of, it would just floor you. And it's not me, it's not you, it's all of us, each one of us. And when people tell you you're, a piece of one, no, we are all individuals. Each one of us is our own energy source. Each one of us can live independently. And what we are, we have the ability. If I can create a portal and utilize them, that means you can too. Where does it end? Galaxies? We are in our own selves creators. We're here because we are an energy source. We are all lights amidst the darkness. We are surrounded by darkness that may look light, but it's not. It's darkness. And here we are. We are the lights that are powering the darkness. And that's the easiest form to put into. I don't put a name to anything. I don't know names, but I do understand and I do know the construct. I don't know every single aspect about it, but I do know the functionality of it. And I do know how things work. And I do know what we have the capability of. Now, if we were just some, just normal beings that didn't have any power, then at any time, whoever's around us could just take over and the end would be near and we would be slaves or whatever. But we obviously have potential, and I've only scratched the surface of some of this potential because I can see it, and a lot of times I can feel it. Now when I say feel it, it's not emotionally, and it's not any of that nature, because when I go somewhere and I take that information, I am there hyper focused on my job. I don't think, I don't judge, I don't do anything. I write everything down and I might not look at it for a year or so. And I don't judge anything. I don't make a determination. Nothing is showing me as evil or, dastardly or overly loving. It's all on an equal basis. We see it, we experience it, we move on. So we have to understand that we are basically neutral based. That's what we are. But we've been put into certain situations where if we are put in the process of experiencing all these negative effects, then it affects us and we release certain amounts of energy. And that's why people are so divisioned and everything on Earth right now, is because the more negative energy we release, the more it's accumulated. And the more negative energy we release, the more it affects us. So we affect each other by affecting by acting ourselves. So by getting in charge of our emotions and our feelings and being in charge of our thoughts, that is the first thing I tell everybody. You have to be in charge of everything about you before you can begin to understand what's going on around you. Because once you've been infiltrated by the illusion of all the media and all the bad news and all the things that happen, we all become affected of it. And when you become affected of it, you affect those around you. When those around you become affected, it affects you. So we're all affecting each other. We're all affecting everything. So what we have to do is get within ourselves and get in control. Now, controlling your thoughts and your feelings, your emotions may seem easy, but wait until the first person that triggers you, and then it all goes haywire.
Why did they trap us, and how did we get trapped?
I don't have an answer for that, but I do have a scenario, and it'll kind of give you a little indication on what's happening. So here we are, an energy being. We're free, we're individual, we're wherever, and at some point, either we're lured or we're trapped at some point, and we're brought down to a low vibrational field, which is the human body. And at that point, we're attached to three bodies in the subconscious. Now, I don't know how everything is intertwined within the system. And the system is obviously monitored and it's well insulated. So we have to be well insulated from our source. And we have to have obviously a memory wipe. And we have to be under the control of the system. So, I mean, even though my consciousness can go out, it has to come back because it still has attachments to my physical body. Even though my astral body can go out, it still has to come back. Even though my soul can go out, it all has to come back because they're all connected at some point. So I say that our waking consciousness is the only us that is within that three body and subconscious system. The three body and the subconsciousness, they could go away. We could survive if we could somehow detach. Now, people talk about the soul trap and how people can detach from the system. Well, what I came up with is I told everybody, obviously, you need to disconnect yourself from all the outside drama and everything. Once you've disconnected yourself and gotten out of the game, the media game, all the drama game, what's going on around your life, as much as you can get out of that. And also understand that your subconsciousness is not your friend. I call it the overseer or the enemy within. Then once you've gone through that point, then you have to understand that in order for you to be in control of your life, you have to be conscious or lucid all of your day, all of your night, even. Because if you're not conscious, there's decisions made for you. People think that, oh, when I die, I can just go and tell them I don't want to do it again. Well, hey, if you're in an illusionary state, now the states that I go into are highly illusionary. And if you lose focus for a moment, you're into the dream state, you're carried away. I mean, how many times you've been in a dream where you can remember you wake up and you go, I would have never done that. Like maybe a person would come into your house and you would never allow them in your house, and you're thinking to yourself, wow, why am I letting this person in my house? You don't do anything about it because subconsciously it's making the decisions. You're there, but you're not enough there to make your decisions. That's the kind of illusionary state I believe that's going to happen when you pass on, because it's no different. It's more of a manipulative state. It's almost like being in drugs. You give you a drug and you say, well, I could think clearly with that. Well, you can't unless you've trained yourself. You have to train yourself in order to be lucid all the time. That's the only way that you can really be in control of your life. Half the time, if you're daydreaming all the time, or if you're just, you're driving and you could lose 30 miles and say, I don't even know what happened during those 30 miles. I didn't remember anything. Well, yeah, because you weren't consciously there. You have to consciously become aware of your life, and you have to consciously be active in other states. And the only way that you can do that is through practice and over practice. Now, the reason why I say that is because once you become lucid all the time, then you can be in full total control.
So, what do we practice to become conscious at all times?
Well, the first thing I tell people is the easiest way, and that's how I did it, is in the middle of the day, all the time. Ask yourself, whenever you can remember or set your alarm on your phone, ask yourself, say, am I awake? And you can look at something solid, turn away, look at it again. And what you're doing is you're testing yourself, you're testing reality. And after a while, you will consciously begin to do it automatically. So you're doing it. Then you'll be able to do it in the dream state. The dream state, you'll start, hey, oh, what there's something, oh, that was wrong. And you catch yourself and you become lucid in the dream. At that point, you can either become in control of your dream or tell yourself you want to have an out of body experience. And at that point, you're in control. You're in control of your spirit body at that point. Becoming in control of it means your subconscious is no longer driving the bus. You want to be driving the bus. And by questioning over and over, you set that up in your conscious mind. And so what happens is when I go through these daydream states into that other realm, I'm catching myself. I'll what I'll do is I'll focus on something and then my eyes will close, which enters me into a similar to a hypnagogic state. At that point, the dream illusion starts to really fill in. And without a form of focus on there, then you will lose it, fall into a dream, and you'll be done. What happens is my consciousness constantly catches it when it switches over because I've just trained it to do that. And then at that point, I really focus on what I'm doing, and then I have the experience. So just by us being cognizant, being lucid, being aware, questioning our reality, you are setting yourself up for an automatic switch. Your consciousness will catch things that you won't even see. You'll start to notice. Maybe you're in a parking lot, it's nighttime, and you're walking, and you're going, this is kind of sketchy, and then you'll start catching things. You'll catch things just walking down the street. There might be something in the corner of your eye. You'll catch it. You would have normally not paid attention to it. But all of a sudden, things are starting to open up that you would have never understood or noticed before. So what you're doing is you're questioning your reality in order for you to become aware. And when I say aware, you'll start understanding things a little bit better because you're opening your mind and exploring the possibility that what you see and experience on a daily life is not all that there is.
It's as simple as just questioning if we're awake.
Yes. And what I did is I have 3 books. I have My Dark Explorations, which basically lays out the portals and everything. I came out with the second book. It's called The Spiritualist Manifesto, A Guide to Freedom. What I did is laid out what's happening to us, why we're in the situation, and I give examples so people can easily understand. So, like they could say, well, hey, I would notice if I was in a manipulative situation, I would say, okay, well, we'll put it this way. Say you're in an abusive relationship and and obviously things aren't going well. People outside of you can see the fact that things aren't going well, but you just don't see it because you begin to accept that what's happening to you. And over time, you accept a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. That's how we are in life. We give up a little bit, then we'll give up a little bit more, then we'll give up a little bit just for the sake of security or for the sake of convenience. We always give up a little bit more. And eventually you're going to get to the point where well, I'm not giving up anymore, but it's like, well, you don't have any more to give up, so it doesn't matter. So that's what we need to understand is every day we give a little, we give a little, we give a little, we give a little until there's nothing left. And I'm not just talking about just our rights, just our freedoms. It's about everything in life. We put up a little bit more. We allow a little bit more when we should be focusing on what's happening and dealing with the situation at the time it happens. And that's what we do. We allow things to just build up little by little and we don't want to deal with them until they're this huge monster. And once they're this huge monster, then it's too late. You can't go back because everything you give up takes twice the amount of energy in order to get it back rather than just taking it back at the time. We all live in a world where things don't make sense. I call it a psycho-illogical operation because we are subjected to things in order to make us feel negative, feel divisional, in order to us to feel angry, in order to feel, put up with this drama and that sort of thing. It's not what we're here for. We're spiritual beings. This is not our forte. Physical life is not our forte. It's not a learning process. It's a prison, and I understand people are going to disagree with me. That's fine. You can believe whatever you want to believe. I tell everybody, question everything, question me. That's fine. But what you need to understand is we don't live in a world where just because we believe it's true means it's true. We have to understand that there are things that we don't, even if we don't agree with something, doesn't mean that somebody else won't do it. We can't project our morals on somebody else. Just because I have a moral compass doesn't mean it equals yours, and yours doesn't equal mine. And, you know, I tell people, anytime you're going to be doing something, rely on yourself. If you want to look for a hero or a savior, look in the mirror, because you are your own savior. You are the only one that can get you out of that hole, and you're the only one that can make your life better. So we are here in order to get ourselves out of a situation, but we have to understand the situation that we are in.
In a reality such as this, where we're kind of trapped in this prison, how is it possible that this information was able to come to you?
Well, when I look at now, let me give you a little background on myself. In the past, I grew up in a family with no religion. Then I got into religion. I couldn't find answers anywhere. And as a kid, I said, you know what? I'm going to remain neutral. I'm not going to believe in anything. I want to find out for myself. And that's where I began my thing. Now, I didn't set out to find a path, and I didn't set out this, I do believe there is a creator somewhere. We do have a creator that created us, obviously. Now, I don't believe, I believe in good. I have a good moral compass. I have a strong moral compass. I know what there's things that I won't do. And I don't care who tells me to do it. There's no level of authority that's going to make me go against my own moral compass. That's the way I am. And when I go to these places, I don't look for the good. I don't look for the bad. And I'm indifferent when I go there. I'm completely neutral because I'm going there for information. So what I do is I'm a technical person. I troubleshoot things. I fix things, but I have to understand how they work and how they function in order for me to understand how to fix them or how to understand them. So when I started this whole process, it was like, hey, I want to go to the Astral. I want to check out stuff. That's cool. I'm in my 20s. That was my whole thing. I didn't want to come to any of this conclusion. So over time, I'm thinking to myself, well, I was going to write a book on it. And I go, well, nobody's going to be really interested in the portals and stuff like that. So, and then I just kept getting edged to write a book about it. And I go, I don't know what I'm going to write. So I wrote about my experiences and stuff like that. And then all this information started coming in. And I'm like, I had to look over all my documentation. I go, there's got to be something here of value for me to understand what it means for other people. So I started going through it, and I started reading in between the lines, and I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense. I go, okay. So what I really discovered is and I'll give you some examples. When I first started coming there, all these beings were there. They're all to welcome me, just like people say when they go on the Astral. They're all there to welcome me. It's like a welcoming crew. Yay, everybody wanted to be my tour guide. What they want to do is they want to get you under their wing. Hey, I'll show you everything you need to know, and you can probably make some money off it and everything. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So I'm listening to it, and I ask a few questions, and I get generalized answers. I'm like, wow, there's really not a lot here. I mean, where is this groundbreaking spiritual, like information? It's gonna, free energy. I want to hear about free energy and all that kind of stuff. You don't hear anything like that. And what they're trying to do is they get you under their wing, and they're going to give you free information. There's no question about that. The information is not going to be maybe Grandma Joe wants to hear about it, or you can tell Aunt Susie, or generalized information. They're there to get you under their wing because they are going to be your information source. You understand? All the psychics have spirit guides. Well, those spirit guides are there, and what they are is they're there to feed you information, and you rely on them. Therefore, whatever you are passing on is coming from them. And what they're doing is they're just regurgitating filtered information to you. So it's like coming straight from the septic tank through them back to you, because what it is it's useless information. They're not going to give you how to save 460,000 missing children, or how to save the world, or how to stop wars. They will never give you that information. They are only going to give you generalized. And if you rely on them, they can manipulate the information and they can manipulate you. They're going to make you feel good. They're going to tell you things you want to hear. They're going to show you what you want to hear because it's all a big scam. Because they want you to tell everybody, this is a great place. Earth is not a great place. It's not a real happy place. But when you go there, it's like all of a sudden the spiritual, everything's going on and everybody's happy and there's love and I could live there forever. Yeah, okay, they're going to show you that because guess what? It's the polar opposite of Earth. Of course you're going to like it. Everybody's going to like it. Why would they show you something? If you're going to catch, you know, if you're going to catch flies, you're going to use honey. You're not going to use salt. Nobody wants to see Nobody wants to see the bad things in life. Nobody wants to see hell and fire. Everybody wants to see love and emotional support and tell you, everything you've always wanted to hear and make you feel so good, show you doves flying around. But they're not going to show you what's really happening because they put the candy coating on there to attract you. And that's why everybody likes it there, just about, because everybody gets to see the candy coating. But when you've been there enough times, you start to see through the candy coating and you start to see there's something more there. There's people that have talked about it before. There's people that have experienced it before, the way things really are. But when channels, or not channels, but when corporations are trying to sell you on the happy place, they don't like to have other people that are, that are telling you about how things really are, because we're going to be the minority because we're not the happy story.
So what happens when we die then? We die and we go to this happy place. It's candy coated. How do they trick us into staying and being reincarnated?
Well,
Reincarnated.
that's what I work on. That's what I work on. The last book I wrote was, I think it's called Exiting Delusion. Well, what we do is we set ourselves up while we're alive to become aware of what's going on when we're in these states of consciousness. Some states are illusional, some states have more illusion. It's almost like being drug-induced state. You're aware, but you're not there. Just like the dream state. It can be very, very illusional. So by us being more focused, consciously there, we are there to make a decision. And when you're all there, you can say, hey, I'm not playing the game. You can make a decision based upon yourself because we are the consciousness. We don't want to hide the consciousness behind 5 layers of fluff or 5 layers of fog. We want it to be out front. We want it to be able to make decision, which is the us of the decision. So that's what I promote, is by getting people to come out. Bring yourself out of what's happening. Understand that just hearing a lot of this doesn't resonate with people because you have to open yourself up to it. And when you begin to practice and when you begin to understand, when I say that, it's understanding on the inside what's going on, and you start to begin to take it seriously, then things start to change. Now, I mean, when people want to go into the spirit world and check it out for themselves and stuff like that, I'd recommend it. That's fine. But you have to understand, when you go there, you're seeing what's on the surface. You see the shiny car and the shiny paint job, but maybe you open the door and the upholstery's all rotten. So you have to know that there's more to what you see than what you see. There's more than what there is. Just like, you could have a starving village and you walk into the middle of town and there's a beautiful brand new building and they're eating like kings. Just if you lived in that building your whole life, never got to look out the window, you wouldn't understand what's going on. But once you step outside that building, then you have a whole nother perspective. And what I'm speaking to you is from a perspective that's different from yours. And I understand your perspective is different from mine. I'm just trying to share what I have experienced and what I have seen and what I have learned over a long period of time. And what I had to, now, this didn't come as an easy understanding or an easy exception. I questioned myself to the point of just about ready. I wasn't going to put the book out. I wasn't going to do anything. I just, you get frustrated. You go through these levels of just like deniability. And I had to seriously question myself to the point of just like almost being sick about it, because I don't come at things lightly and I don't make decisions based upon just thoughts and intuitions. I have to base them upon fact, and I have to understand the construct in order for it to happen. So that's why I bring it out. It's not, to me, I wouldn't say it's great news, because I don't like to lie to people. I like to tell people the truth, and that's what I'm all about. And if I knew something more, then I would tell people that. But what I'm trying to do is set up a methodology for people to follow so that they have the ability to choose for themselves. If they choose not to, that's fine. But I'm going to make it available. So if they choose to do it, they can make the choice for themselves.
I think that I understand now why you want us to question if we're awake. I get that now. And that you just explained that to me and it just like clicked in my head. So thank you for that. You said that there's like this triple body kind of thing that's connected by a cord and that acts as kind of like our cage. Are we still connected to our true essence, who we really are?
I I do believe our consciousness, the waking consciousness, the us that we're speaking right here, I do believe that is our energy source. Now, what happens is, let's put this in a perspective. Say you have I don't know, a 100-watt light bulb, and you stick it in a metal box where it's just insulated, and it doesn't get any outside source, and it's got, maybe give it, instead of 110 volts, maybe give it 10 volts, so it can't shine at its brightness. It's getting overheated in that box, and it's under the worst conditions that it could be. It's not supplying anything. We're within those conditions, and we don't have the ability to constantly connect with what we have normally done. I can't give you all the aspects of it because I don't understand every single uh, um, every single piece of the puzzle, because I'm still learning it. But what we are is, we're trapped within this box, and we don't get everything that we need in order for it to understand. Now, what I do is I get glimpses of understanding that don't come from here. They come from somewhere else. And we all do that. We all get information from an outside source. We have a veil around us that's highly corrosive, it's highly insulated, so that we can't connect with what's outside of this box. Now, when I pierce it with my subconsciousness, I make these trips, and I see these things, and then I begin to bring an understanding back. And then sometimes I feel the energy flow within me, but I know this is just a limited section of what's happening. So I don't have every single answer for everybody's question, but what I do say is, when I begin to see what we have the potential of, it's utterly amazing. And I'm probably seeing, less than 1/10 of 1% of what we have available. Another thing I want to say is, we become immersed in a lot of this, what's going on around us, like whether it's UFOs and that sort of thing. Now, we see less than 1% of our visual spectrum. Now, this is with our physical eyes. So there's a lot of things going on around us on a regular basis, things that we don't know that are there because we can't see them. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of things going on. So when we're being manipulated, whether it's being programming in our physical life or programming during our dream state, we're also being affected on things that are on the physical level that we can't see. So we have a large amount of insulation, resistance, and that sort of thing happening around us 24/7. So we're not only protected from our source, but we also have all these other things going on around us. And I believe that's the only way that our captors can keep us within in this state. Otherwise, we could potentially, and when I leave, I have to come back because that's my consciousness disconnecting, but there's still a tether there, and I don't at this point I don't know how to disconnect that tether. When we pass on, then oh yeah, I'm going to do my best to fight my way out of it because I'm preparing myself, and that's what I press on other people is preparing yourself. The consciousness, being aware of what's going on, that right there is going to give you your best bet when it's time to move on, when you're gone in the passing, when it comes time for you to go to the whatever, call it meet your maker or whatever it's called. Yeah, I'm not going to be snowed by the system. Now, I've already had a similar training in the astral because in the dream state, I've been lucid several times, and I always used to get these really bad dreams, and they started again when I was older. And then so I finally got to the point where I was lucid within these dreams, and I could change them. And once I had the ability to control those dreams, then immediately the fear factor, the those that were causing that issue, they completely stopped. So what's happening is there's a level of manipulation that figures we can affect him in the dream state. So once you start having lucid dreams and you can control that construct of the dream, then they no longer have that control over you, which proves to yourself and them that you have the ability to become conscious in other states and you are now a danger to their system. Because what happens is when you start to question your own reality and question your own state of being, you are actually creating a rift in our program. Our program is you are constantly putting out different frequencies based upon your emotions, your thoughts, your feelings. We're all doing that, and those go into the ether, the database. And once you start surrounding yourself with positive or questioning abilities, then you start to affect the program around us. And once you start to do that, then you become something different than someone of the flock. So say somebody walks around and they're usually transmitting an A, all of a sudden you're transmitting a Z. Then you start to change the field around you. And that means you affect other people around you. So you become, in essence, a virus in the system.
Do they then try to attack you, or does your life change in any way?
Well, you could be on the dream state would be the first place where they would start to, you would start to have dreams that maybe were, not the ones you would, that you would prefer. And that's one of the states where they could affect you. I mean, they could affect you in any state. Realistically, we're in there are so many states of being that they could affect you in any of, whether it could be drama related in your life as well. So, I mean, I can't answer that, but I can say is there's many ways to manipulate people. And it's not just on the physical and it's not just in the dream state.
Your experiences are so unique, and I haven't heard about anything that's quite the same as yours. Do you feel like there's an outside influence coming in trying to wake you up? Or is it just you trying to wake you up?
It didn't wake me up, it kicked me in the butt. Really, I mean, what happened was I started having these, I was in my 20s and I had a new family. I was just married, I had a new job. And realistically, it wasn't the astral, so it wasn't my kind of, it was okay, but I really didn't know what to make of it. I went on with my life and I was in the midst of life. So I didn't focus on it. A lot of times I would kind of forget about it and I would have one, I'd have another one. I kept having them, but eventually what would happen is I would start to get these energy rushes and stuff, and I'm like, wow, what's that? When I'd be driving, and I sometimes people have to be hit with a hammer in order to listen to what people are saying or what's happening to you. I mean, I'm not the type of guy to get a clue real easily if I'm focused on something else. So basically, I got hit in the head with a hammer almost, and it said, "You need to do something about this." Okay, so I started taking it seriously. I started working and trying to figure out what was going on. That's when I started the glimpses, which I call about 10 years ago. And then I really started putting my feet to the coals. And then I started doing a lot more of integrating what I was learning from my documentation and my experiences. So I started building upon that more and more. And I'll give you an example of one that I had last year. It was about a year ago. I had a glimpse, which was through the daydream state, and I ended up in this looked like an old church. It was a wooden church with flying buttresses, and like it looked like an old, large Catholic church with nothing in it except for a stage. It was all wood. I get in there, I go there, and I'm looking down from 25 feet down. I'm looking at the stage. There are these, now I call them avatars because they were physical objects being controlled by spiritual beings. Okay, and they were having what I would call a ceremony of sorts. There was four of one, four of another. And what I would say, they look like the closest physical comparison I can put, they look like a black oxygen cylinder, one about 4 foot tall with a rounded top, with a bowling ball sitting on top of it. All glossy black. Four had one striping on the side, four had the other striping. They look like lightning bolt stripes with different colors. They were sliding around on the floor as if they were on ice and somebody was pushing them, but they weren't. The spiritual beings were moving those icons or those avatars around on that stage as if there was a ceremony, and they were lined up. I showed up there because I didn't know what was going to be. I don't know where I'm going to be. I see it, and it's like I'm physically there sitting on a scaffold 25 feet up looking down. That's what it feels like. All of a sudden, the one contacts me, and it's all in your mind. It's obviously telepathy. He says, repeat this. I'm like, okay. Now, usually when it's telepathy, it's in pretty good English. This wasn't. It sounded like somebody from South America who spoke broken English in a way. He told me, he said, say it out loud, repeat it over. Because when I'm there, I'm physically still at the location I'm at, but mentally I projected my consciousness there. So I know I'm in both places at one time. He made me repeat it 5 times. And then I opened my eyes, I went to my phone and I recorded it. I couldn't understand what he was saying because it was broken English. What the heck? I played it over and over. He said his name, which I understood that. And he said, I know who's being nosy. That was his way of telling me I was nosy. And at that point, I understood what he said and he blocked me. Apparently, there's a way with portals. Now, I can tell you how portals work. Portals are a connection in space time from anywhere to anywhere, and they're just a veil in between you. It can be initiated by a third party, or can be initiated by me or another party. There's no time frame, there's no time in between there. And some you can be passed through, and others are just used for communication only. Now, if you're using for communication, you can see on their side, they can see on your side. And it's like sitting on the other side of an invisible piece of glass. But at times you feel like you're on that side, and at times they feel like they're on your side. There's no, I don't know if it's bringing here to there or there to here or here and there together, but at times they're overlaid. So we're in the same space at the same time. So portals, they go against everything of physical science because there is no space-time whatsoever in that respect. It disappears, and when I'm there, there's absolutely no time understanding. It's just while I'm there, the information, what I see, I experience, and I come back. It could be a half second, it could be 10 seconds, it could be a minute, but it could feel like a half an hour on that side.
If my viewers wanted to reach out to you, Mike, to purchase your book or they have questions, how can they find you?
You can go my Rumble channel, My Dark Explorations. I post videos in there all the time. There's an email on there. You can contact me. You can comment in any of the videos, and I'll reply to them. The Amazon books, My Dark Explorations, Portals, Astral, and Gateways. The Spiritualist Manifesto on Amazon as well. A Guide to Freedom, and The last one is called Leaving the Illusion of Life, and that's also on Amazon, those 3 books. And they'll give you a good layout of what's going on. But I always tell people, the reason why I repeat a lot of the information is because sometimes you need to hear that information more than once in order for it to click. And like when you just said a minute ago, you said, yeah, this time you said it and it clicked. Sometimes I need to hear something from somebody else in order for it to click for me, because that's how things work with us. The way we process information is all differently. So you might hear the same thing 50 times, but somebody else might say it in a different context. You're like, oh, never understood that before. And all of a sudden it just opened up a doorway that I just never knew was there before. So um, I put it in the books, I put it in the videos, and it's there for people. And I want people to, utilize it. And like I said, you don't have to agree with me, question anything. If you got questions for me, I'll answer. If there's a question I can't answer, I'll just say, I have no idea. I'm not sure of that, because I had nobody to ask. And it's very frustrating, beyond frustrating for anybody to not have somebody that they can turn to. And I understand how that feels. And also, a lot of people, they put their email out there and you have to go through 50 different people to filter out, and you never get to the person. And then by the time you get an answer to a question, it's been 3 months and you don't even remember what it was. So yeah, I don't operate that way. I'm here for people to access, and for me, that's the most important part. And if you don't agree with me, that's fine. Everybody's got their opinion, but my thing is, I think everybody should be free to make their own decisions, as long as it doesn't interfere with the freedoms of others. I mean, that's a pretty simple process. And I think we should be in a situation like at one time we were, that where we would be free and have the ability to make our own decisions, and not be, overrun by rules and that sort of thing. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of people out there that I do talk to, and they say, yeah, I know there was something more to this than what meets the eye or what people are talking about, but you don't really know until you've got both feet into it.
And if you had one message that you wanted to leave with the audience today, one thing that you would hope that they would walk away from our conversation with, what would it be?
We're not doing it just for us. I'm not doing it just for me, and you're not doing it just for you. This is for all the future generations of people, or of beings, or spiritual whatever. There is an unlimited amount of different beings and different scenarios in this, wherever. I don't even say universe, because that seems like such a small thing. And we are capable of things that are beyond even our imagination. And if we could access even 1% of it, we'd be completely amazed. But, when if we're going to do something, we have to do it ourselves. And the only way we're going to be able to, and the only way I've gotten to this point, is through drive. You have to pick up your own self and push yourself. And I told myself, I go, even if I'm on the wrong path, I'd rather be walking along the wrong path than sitting at home trying to figure out which way I want to turn. You have to, at some point, you just have to get up and move. And even if you're doing it wrong, then at least you're moving. But you can't expect something to change if you don't put forth the effort to get it done. And like I said, if you want to find a hero or look for a hero, just look in the mirror. That's where your hero is at.
Thank you so much, Mike, for being my guest.
Well, I hope people can find use in it. I mean, that's why I'm here. And I mean, didn't want everything that I've had to go through to just, like I said, end up in a pile of papers in the corner of a room somewhere that just got hauled off to the trash 20 years from now. I was hoping to make a point and have an end game to help people, so that they could make their own decision. If they don't believe, if they want to keep going, that's fine. If they want out, here's an option right here. And as I get more information, I will post it and I will print it so that people, it's not just, I'm not leaving people hanging.
Thank you for being here. I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you being here and supporting my channel. If you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing if you enjoy near death experiences and other spiritually transformative stories. It helps the algorithm know that this information is useful and push it out to more people. And that's the goal, to get as many people to know that we are eternal spiritual beings and that we never die. Our bodies might die, but our essence will never die. And I want people to live with less fear. Let's all spread the word. Like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that little notification bell so you get all the notifications when my videos post. Thank you for all of your support. I'm sending love to you.